Well, what's your name?
Reverend Billy Joe Lipford.
When is your birthday?
June the 19th, 1941.
Okay, where were you born?
I was born here in Caldwell County.
Did you grow up in Caldwell County?
I grew up in Caldwell County.
What was the land like in Caldwell County when you were growing up?
Well, it has really expanded, and there wasn't as many business and there wasn't as many homes as there are now.
What interesting things have you experienced in Caldwell County?
Well, in Caldwell County, growing up, back during my young days, well, we done a little fishing, and then after going to school and getting my education and finishing high school, then I began to take mechanic work. So I done mechanic work for many years.
Where'd you go to high school?
At Freedman High.
Did they offer any sports?
Well, yes, they did, but I wasn't interested in sports. I was mostly interested in working on cars and doing things, in that line of work.
Did you go to college?
No, I didn't get the chance to go to college.
Oh, why didn't you get the chance to go to college?
Well, during that time, Mom and Dad was working, and then I had some older sisters. There were so many of them because there's 11 children of us. And so they had to quit school to help keep us clothed and in school. And my older brother, because work during that time, when I was growing up, it was manufacturing work, but not as much then as it was now. It was just a few manufacturing plants.
So you worked in manufacturing when you were growing
I
up?
worked in manufacturing until it shut down. I worked for Singers until I retired. And that was, I think, about 40 years with Singers. I'm 71 now.
What do you do for a living now?
Well, now I pastor a church. I took my ministry courses and finished that and graduated from that. And now, like I said, I draw unemployment, retirement. And so that's how I do. And then the love offering I get at church, that helps me out too.
How long have you been a preacher?
About 40 years, I'd say, if not longer.
Do you enjoy being a preacher?
Oh, yes. It's a job. It's challenging. But if the Lord calls you to preach, He'll give you the courage and the strength. But if you go out there on your own, you won't hold up because the tests and trials that will come your way from other people.
Have you ever lost your faith?
No, I'm wanting to get stronger because I've seen too much being fulfilled.
What was your favorite sermon?
Well, my favorite sermon is, all of them's favorite to a certain extent. And so I think about, Jesus so loved the world that He gave His, God so loved the world, forgive me, God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. And I think about that, God gave His Son for me. And I want to show how much I appreciate it by serving Him.
Do you have any particular weddings that you remember?
I performed a wedding, this has been so long, it was my daughter's wedding, and they're still together, and they have 2 beautiful children, and I thank the Lord for that.
What happened during the wedding that made it so special?
Well, it went along, it was blessed, and it went along beautifully, and there wasn't no confusion or whatsoever. And so the Lord is still blessing them with their children. And they're beautiful children. And they're in church too.
That's good. Did you go to church as a child?
Yeah, Mom and Dad took me to church. That's where we started out. It was what we call a little country church back during those days. And they made sure we went to church and Sunday school. They would take us. They wouldn't send us. They would take us. And then after we grew up and got older, then we would go on our own. That's the way we was trained.
What are some of your childhood memories?
Oh, I have many of them. Well, back during my childhood, a lot of times I usually would make things, and I had the desire to want to build things and make things. So many different little things, to play with and like playhouses and tree houses and different things like that.
What kind of material did you use to make the tree houses?
Well, most of the time we would get our material from where they would cut lumber, like at the sawmill and different things like that, where they would cut lumber. And so that's why I would build, tree houses and different things like that.
Did you make any toys yourself that you used to play with when you were a child?
We made wagons, homemade wagons, and we made sleds when it was snow so we could slide. Because during that time, we didn't have that much money. And the money that Daddy brought in, it was to feed us and to clothe us and to keep us warm. And so most of the time, that's what we would make. We'd make our own toys. And I can remember the first wagon I had gotten, as they call, from Santa Claus. It was a wagon, and I kept it for many years. I cherished it.
Did you meet your wife in Caldwell County?
Well, no. Well, she's from Wilkesboro. And so what it was, you might say to a certain extent I met her because she was up at a neighbor's house. And I happened to meet her up at my neighbor's house and whatever it is. And then later on, I ended up going down to my cousin's house down in Ferguson. That's Wilkes County. And then my cousin sent me over to her house. And then when I went over to her house and got old enough, I brought her home with me.
How old were you when you met her?
I was 20. I think I was about 20, and we got married about 22.
How long have you been married?
49 years.
Was it love at first sight?
Well, at first sight, I made up my mind. You're mine. When I first seen her, I had to get on the good side of her daddy. And her daddy liked me real well because I tell jokes and things. And then I ended up marrying her. He let me have her. Well, I started working really on a job. I think I maybe have been about, well, I started when I was about 13. They picked me up after school at 3:30, and then I'd go wash. I worked at a garage. That's where I learned how to work on a car. And I washed tools and keep the garage cleaned up. And he taught me how to work on cars. And although that Daddy was a mechanic himself, but after I went through high school and everything, I worked until I graduated in a garage. And that's where I got my skill from.
Did you go to prom with her?
Well, the reason why I didn't go with her with the prom, I think her uncle took her. Her uncle took her. His name, they call him Duck, nickname. And he took her to the prom. And so I just didn't go because the prom was in Wilkesboro. And I lived up here in Lenore, over where Jody live at now. We call that Bushtown.
Do you have any children?
Yeah, I got 3. Yeah, I got Delphine, she's the oldest. And I got Joey, he's next. And then I got Tanya, she's the baby girl. And all three of them married.
How old are they?
Tanya's 40, Joey's 45, and Delphine's 48.
Do you have any interesting stories from when they were children?
Yeah, we had some interesting stories, and that we would tell them. And but during that time, we'd tell what we had on TV. And like I said, we'd talk to them, about the Long Ranger, and we talked to them about Frankenstein and different things. Then we would make up things and just tell them.
Do you have any interesting stories that you want to share?
Oh my Lord! Well, I had a habit in my life. I rode a bicycle, like I said it is, and we would ride through the woods. And during the time, and do a lot of, we'd climb trees playing Tarzan. I don't know if you know about that or not, back then, Tarzan. And then I had an interesting thing. I usually maybe played by myself a lot. And we'd make ponds down at the branch. We call it a branch. It was a little creek. We'd pond up down there and make a little pond and swim in it. And most of the time, I usually played majority by myself. And you might wonder why I done that. But see, like I said, it is where I lived at, the community I lived at. Most of the time, the children kind of stayed at home, and we'd go to school together. But it was a little country school. Yeah.
How is your high school experience different from kids that are going to high school today?
Oh, our experience is a whole lot different from what the young people do today. I never was really interested in playing football. I always, worked on cars and build things. I like building. Mm-hmm. And I'd build little houses and different things like that when I was growing up young. And most of the time I'd work on bicycles and different things. I love doing mechanic work. It's about mostly all I've done.